It's impossible to be a homosexual Christian.
Really?
It's impossible to be a...
Welcome to episode 30 of Paddy Don't Surf. Today, I want to talk about lying sacks of shit. I want to talk about people in new media and legacy media who disrespect their audiences enough to straight up lie to them. We like to hear from our right-wing friends on a daily basis how the liberal media, the legacy media, disrespects their audience and lies to them. If you think that they don't do the same thing on the far right new media, you have not been paying any damn attention whatsoever. I want to talk about a massively popular social media MAGA preacher by the name of Lance Wallnau, who's got dozens of pictures of him and Trump. This guy has influence within Trump's orbit. This guy has been in the White House a lot, and he's got a huge social media following, as I said. He's going to explain why he thinks we should change our immigration policy towards Christians and people who might vote for Trump. And if you think that's bananas, it's because it is.
Work also in the MAGA Hispanic community, and you know the big thing that all the Hispanic Latino preachers are all, well, they'll tell you, because they tell me, is they're concerned because attendance is down in the churches. It's a shame that the Christians that are illegal in the country, that have been in the church for 10 years, 15 years, they're afraid that ICE is going to come in and bust up the churches. So some of the best citizens you've got are living in fear of being deported.
Okay. You're talking about people who are here illegally and then referring to them as citizens. Why? Because they're Christians? Because they've been here a certain amount of time? I've been listening for decades to right-wingers tell me, well, the Democrats and the liberals just want massive open border immigration because these people will eventually vote Democratic. They're basically buying votes by saying, come on in. So is the right, the evangelical right now saying, come on in just as long as you vote our way? Is that what we're doing?
It's because, you know, we're like meatheads, I think. Like, I guarantee. I just played Brother Steve. I listen to him all the time. But, you know, I can't, he doesn't listen to me. I can't get these guys to understand. The MAGA base actually has the Hispanic pro-Trump population, the Christians. You got to do a carve-out somehow on those citizens that have been here for 10 years or more that are actually contributing, well assimilated, versus the ones that are coming in like the Muslim traffic that wants to take over America and declare Sharia law. You should not have. You ought to be creating some kind of a criteria for prioritizing criminals first. And if these people that have been working class people and they're serving, I mean, they got family here, and they're in church, and they're, frankly, if they're Republican conservative, I don't want to drive them into anxiety attacks and not voting for Trump because they're afraid they're getting deported. They're not the priority. Does that make sense to you?
No, that does not make sense to anybody with a fucking working brain. You cannot keep calling people who you just said are here illegally citizens because they might vote the way you want if they were allowed to vote. I thought illegal immigrants were not allowed to vote. I thought only Democratic illegal immigrants voted. I didn't think we had a massive population of MAGA illegal immigrants who were voting, but I guess maybe Pastor Lance just let the cat out of the bag. What the fuck are you talking about, man? We're going to decide to go to the Home Depot parking lot for an ICE raid, line everybody up and say, hey, did you go to church this week? Would you consider voting for Donald Trump? Are you a Christian conservative? Okay, you can stay. Oh, you're a Muslim? Get the fuck out. You're an atheist? Get the fuck out. You're Jewish? Get the fuck. I mean, really. We're going to decide to ask people what their religion is in order to decide whether we enforce the fucking law or not. Now, I can tell you, I understand every one of the right-wing hosts, which is every other host on this network, is going to say, well, I don't buy that. That's not right. It's bullshit. It is bullshit. But you have to understand that a guy like Lance Wallnau, who has real connection to the Trump White House, who has an ability to influence millions of fucking people, and who has this amount of obvious disrespect for his audience to say crazy shit like this, who wants to waive the Constitution on one day and then say we should have fucking illegal immigrants in the country just as long as they vote Republican. That we have to pay attention to this because he's got a massive fucking audience. You can't ignore it. The mainstream media will do that, but that also shows their fucking laziness and contempt for you as the audience because they don't cover anything that's really fucking important anymore. What is really important is the direction that CBS News has decided to take. And it's not because I watch, or I think, the majority of the country watches CBS News. But if you didn't know, and you probably don't, they hired Barry Weiss to be the news boss over there. And they're going to take the network to a hard right direction in order to simp for Donald Trump because they needed to get a merger okayed by the FCC. And so the result is we're going to hire a hardcore right winger to run our news outfit. Now, look, they can do whatever the hell they want. They can hire who they want. If they want to become Fox News Light, they can do that. If they want to become Newsmax, they can do that too. Okay. But the disingenuous way that they're doing it really pisses me off. Barry White was at a conference recently, and she described what she thinks the future of CBS News is. And she used an example that is absolutely bananas. She used an example of a debate that recently happened. I don't know where it happened, but a debate that happened between Alan Dershowitz and Dana Lash on guns. Okay. Dana Lash, according to Barry Weiss, represents the center right, and Alan Dershowitz represents the center left. Now, if you're not laughing at this, you probably haven't consumed any content by Dershowitz or Lash over the last 10 years. But if you have, you understand how absurd that fucking is, right? Dana Lash used to work at NRA TV before NRA TV went out of business with all the financial trouble the NRA is having. She is as far right gets. She doesn't think that guns should be legal for everyone to carry. She thinks they should be fucking mandatory for everybody to carry, okay? She wants to arm the fucking librarian and the damn teachers and everybody else. I mean, she is not within what Barry Weiss calls the 40-yard lines of American politics, what's acceptable as far as centrists go. She is nowhere near that. She's not in a fucking 40-yard line. She's all the way in the damn 15th row, okay? And Alan Dershowitz is a creepy old man who has been, and let me be very clear, accused of being a pedophile. I will not be sued for this because I'm not saying he is one, but he's a creepy bastard. And if you Google Dershowitz Epstein, you'll find a lot of material that's deeply disturbing. On top of that, he's a wrinkled ass old man who's 40 years older than the 47-year-old Dana Lash, who is also extremely attractive. Okay, just objectively, she's a very good looking woman, and she's super aggressive and very good at debating. So you put Dana Lash and Alan Dershowitz up there and say this is a both sides debate. But what you're really doing is you're putting someone who is obviously going to roll over this old man and look good doing it and call this a centrist debate. Dershowitz has been a simp for Donald Trump for the last decade. Okay, so the idea that he's a liberal has been out the fucking window for a long time. Ask Larry David or anybody who lives on Nantucket, right? This is very similar to what went on in the early aughts on the Hannity and Combs show, if you remember that from Fox News, when Fox used to pull the bullshit fair and balanced. I almost said fake and balanced. Freudian slip. Fair and balanced. Fox insisted that, well, we have a liberal on this show, so it must be a down the middle, fair and balanced show. Yeah, Alan Combs was, and he's passed, by all accounts, a nice guy, but he was a bit of a pussy. He would let Hannity roll over him, and Alan was an ugly guy, okay? That shouldn't matter, but it does on television. And they put him on there with Hannity, who's got that, American dad, good looks. And even though he's a complete moron, he would roll over Combs because he's not a guy who can defend himself. and they call it fair and balanced. That's what we're getting with Barry Weiss on CBS. It's going to be a right-wing network that uses fugazi liberals to just roll over and say, see, we're fair and balanced. It's bullshit, and it's really just, it exists to fillet Donald Trump. That's what we're dealing with. On the topic of insanity and lies, continuing on the topic, I want to talk just a little bit about the seditious six, the the senators in Congress, people who made a video just stating a fact that service members are not only not required to follow unlawful orders, they're required not to follow, to refuse unlawful orders. It's very clear in the Uniform Code of Military Justice that you are not to follow an illegal order. Just saying, making a statement of fact, apparently, according to MAGA, should get you thrown in jail or executed for sedition. I remember hearing constantly, facts, not feelings, or fuck your feelings, and saying people referring to themselves as based because they were based in fact. It is a fact, an incontrovertible fact, that nobody on that video, including Senator Kelly, who apparently will now be recalled to be yelled at by Pete Hegseth or something, nobody said anything that isn't true, isn't factually accurate, and isn't lawful. But MAGA's feelings got hurt by it, and therefore everyone's got to go to jail. I don't want to hear ever again facts, not feelings from these fucking people, because what they want is their feelings to be serviced. And fuck the facts. Nobody said anything illegal on that. Nobody incited anybody to do anything illegal on that video. And MAGA really does actually know that, or at least the ones with enough brain cells to rub together. They know it. They just don't give a shit. They do want their feelings to be serviced above all else. It's just hilarious to me that these people who were so upset about, well, Democrats and women and liberals just vote with their emotions and they don't base anything in facts. They're not based. And now they want to be jerked off because somebody hurt their fucking feelings. And they want to put a veteran, an astronaut, a Navy captain in jail, or I guess executed, because he said something that hurt their feelings. This is where MAGA's at. It is hypocrisy beyond all fucking belief. It's not going to end. It's only going to get worse. And, I don't think that there's an avenue for Hegseth to actually get like a fucking judgment against Kelly for sedition. I don't even know what the mechanics behind that would be, whether it be a military tribunal like these guys have been talking about, that the QAnon morons have been talking about for a decade. I don't know even what they're trying to accomplish here, other than to make Donald Trump feel better. But that's what we're dealing with. And you could comment on this, but as I tell you every time, commenting would be pointless.